Does total body detox with fasting or juice cleansing work? Well, I don't think so. There are no credible studies that show benefit. Risks are possible, and everyone is trying to get your money for supplements, programs, and books. Let's explore the evidence together. Hi, I'm Dr. Bobby Du Bois, and welcome to Live Long and Well, a podcast where we will talk about what you can do to live as long as possible and with as much energy and vigor that you wish. Together, we will explore what practical and evidence-supported steps you can take. Come join me on this very important journey, and I hope that you feel empowered along the way. I'm a physician, Ironman triathlete, and have published several hundred scientific studies. I'm honored to be your guide. Hello, my listeners, and welcome to episode 29, Total Body Detox. Sadly, where hype outpaces science. Well, you've probably heard this. Detox your body of toxins. Do a juice cleanse or a fast. Take supplements. Sweat. And you will feel better. Well, there's a whole lot of claims. There's a whole lot of money going after this. But sadly, no credible evidence that any of it works. It may be the world's record of the most claims of benefit and the least amount of evidence to support it. Now, I think this is a perfect time to talk about this topic because over the last month, we've had a number of episodes that lead us right here. Well, we talked about health headlines and whether to trust them. And of course, there's lots of health headlines on total body detox. We talked last week about the placebo effect. And frankly, I think where a lot of these claims come from may well be the placebo effect. And finally, we've talked about the N of 1 testing in yourself. And this may be something to consider if you were thinking about doing a detox cleanse. If you wish to look at any of those prior episodes, listen away, and it might help you get some further understanding about today. Well, in this episode, I want to walk through 5 questions. Why should you detox? 2, how is it done? 3, does it work? 4, is it safe? And 5, what do you do with this information, and can you put it into perhaps an N of 1 approach? Well, as always, I like to begin with the story. As some of you may know, I grew up in Los Angeles and then have been in Texas for the past 11 years or so. But I have family and friends in LA and was watching very carefully what was going on with the fires and all the devastation and loss that was associated with that. And I read this article in the Wall Street Journal about social media influencers and supposed experts saying that people exposed to smoke from those fires should drink lots of bottled water to flush out the fire toxins. My reaction to that was, well, that sounds interesting, but is there any evidence that it would actually work? Now, I have a sauna, and Gail and I use it regularly, and I sweat a lot in the sauna. And I'm feeling like, wow, it's flushing me of toxins or bad things in the sauna. Well, again, interesting theory, but is there any evidence? And then finally, my oldest daughter, Rachel, has had a series of chronic symptoms that she hasn't been able to figure out what's the cause, and Western medicine really hasn't helped her solve it. And so she came to me and said, what about these detox programs? Might this help flush out something that's in my system that could be problematic? I said, look, it's a very interesting question, but is there any evidence? So down the rabbit hole I went What did I find? What did I learn? And let's dive in together. So let's begin with why you might consider a total body detox. And let's begin with the marketing pitch. What do those headlines talk about? What do the advertising talk about? Well, the first is they claim we live in a world of toxins in our air, in our food, in our water, all around us. And that can't be a good thing. Those toxins get inside us. It could be air pollution. It could be microplastics in our foods. It could be heavy metals like mercury, lead, or arsenic, pesticides that may be on our foods and in the environment. This sounds bad. And we know in medicine, in Western medicine, that there are known toxic syndromes. So, for example, we used to hear a fair bit about lead in paint and little kids chewing on the paint and having problems with their mental capabilities. This was a very known and real issue. There's a genetic disorder called Wilson's disease where your body doesn't handle copper. Copper's a metal. And we know it causes damage, and we know it can be treated by removing it. So there's a basis to believe this. The second is the claim, kind of a broader claim, that our systems are just frankly out of balance. Now, that out of balance may cause inflammation or chronic fatigue, chronic pain, autoimmune diseases. And those claims would also be that our gut microbiome is a mess. And those advertisings say, well, let's do something about that. And the third, as I was mentioning earlier about my daughter Rachel, is that Western medicine may not be helping you. You may have something that's been going on for years and you can't find a solution. In our health quiz and the 5 different types, one is the hopeful health seeker. These are folks who've struggled with one health problem or another and haven't found relief. The good news with the hopeful health seeker is they don't give up. They keep at it. But these are folks who may feel like maybe a detox cleanse would work for them. If you haven't taken the quiz, just takes a couple of minutes, go to my website, drbobbylivelongandwell.com, and take it and see if it fits for you, what your type is. Also, if you're interested, you can go to my website if you're interested in working with me. And the 6-month mastermind class is about to kick off in about 10 days, and there's 1 slot remaining. Again, go to my website if that's of interest. All right, so that's the claims about how you might benefit. And then there's all this advertising. So maybe what you need is what's advertised, the 10-day detox program, which will reset your metabolism, restore your energy, rebalance your hormones. And that's about $500. You get a guide, you get some supplements. And this will help, it's claimed, brain fog and fatigue and chronic pain. And in 4 to 5 to 6 days, there are testimonials of people who've gotten so much better. Well, maybe it's the 45-day Total Detox Restorative Program at a mere $1,400. And this was created, they say, to detoxify heavy metals and chemicals and unwanted organisms. And it's going to help eliminate acidity and restore alkaline reserve and so on and so forth. And you get with that $1,400 some supplements and a guidebook and so on and so forth. Well, there's lots of books on cleanses. Their titles are things like Cleanse to Heal, 10-Day Green Smoothie Cleanse, Dr. Sebi's Mucus Cleanse, Parasite Cleanse, the Panacea Cleanse, the Liver and Gallbladder Miracle Cleanse. No lack of books. And then there are supplements that are advertised everywhere. They may cost $10, $40. They may cost more. You can get a 7-day detox cleanse for your whole body with various pills. that might have senna leaf and vitamin C and apple cider vinegar and so on and so forth. And lastly, a lot of practitioners are pushing it. Now, not typically Western practitioners, but 95% of naturopathic doctors in a recent survey used detox therapies. So it's a perfect storm of compelling theories, unmet needs where people do have problems, and for-profit incentives. So that's kind of why it's done. Now, let's explore a little bit about how it's done. Now, these are generally short-term diet and activities that will supposedly eliminate toxins. So there's a couple of components of a typical detox cleanse. The first is take less bad stuff in. So for a period of days, maybe a week or two or more, you'll do either total fasting with just water. It might be a juice fast or a very restricted diet. So less stuff goes into you that might be causing you problems. So that's the first element. The second element is adding good stuff or supposed good stuff to your body. So there may be cleansing foods and spices like coriander or citric acid or supplements that will help your body. And then lastly, many of these include a flushing process, which could be diuretics to promote kidney flow, laxatives for your GI tract to flush things out of your system. They might suggest that you do lots of sweating in a sauna or something like that. Or they may even include colonic cleanses like enemas and laxatives. So this is what it entails. And now part 3, the all-important question, does it work? Well, God created us and gave us kidneys and livers. And the kidney and the liver are already in the toxin removal business. So now the question is, do these additional programs and supplements and approaches, does it add to what our liver and our kidney already does for it? So what's the best case that this might actually have a role in helping people feel better? As I mentioned earlier, there are known overload diseases, iron overload, arsenic overload, lead overload, and there are medicines called chelating agents that you take and it binds to the toxins and then that's removed from the body. Now, this is really, really true and very helpful for these very uncommon situations. If you had a poisoning, maybe a drug overdose or something like that, we might give you activated charcoal, which you would take by mouth. It would bind the toxins in your gut and excrete it so your body didn't absorb it. And there are really true known food intolerances, whether it's eggs or nuts or something like that, and removing that from your diet can actually help you feel better. So these situations, there is a role for removing toxins, but those are the rare circumstances. The ones that are being advertised are really about everybody else that has fatigue or their brain is not as sharp as they would like it to be, or they don't have the energy they wish, or something like that. Now, is there any evidence that it works, these approaches work for the more typical symptoms? And I did find some evidence that it works. That is, if you're a fish or you're a mouse. So one set of studies looked at coriander and citric acid that could potentially bind metals. And in fact, in rainbow trout, it reduced cadmium levels. And in mice, it reduced lead. But again, not in people, in smaller, lesser organisms. There's a study of chlorella, which is a green algae, and it removed mercury, but removed mercury in mice. But when we turn to people, which is really what we care about, we're not necessarily trying to help our mice or our trout. No credible evidence. Let me repeat that. No credible evidence. And there's 3 ways to look at this. The first is there was a systematic review. Again, this will be in the show notes if you're interested in going and taking a look at it. And they looked at all the human studies they could find. And there were some studies, but they were all highly flawed. And there was no randomized placebo-controlled trial that showed benefit. So that's the first. The second is a branch of the NIH, which is called the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health, came out with its statement. Again, no credible evidence that any of this works. And then lastly, Dr. Bobby's assessment. I've looked at all these documents. I've looked at the literature. I have not found credible controlled trials with scientific rigor and placebos to show that the benefits they purport to cause actually happen. Now, if you have some evidence, by all means, send it to me. I would always want to learn and do better. Now, there was a rare study where they did a randomized trial with placebo of a supplement packet that had papaya and peppermint and fenugreek and ginger and senna. And folks took it for 4 weeks. There was also a placebo control. And these are folks that had some GI problems, tummy problems. And they also looked at blood markers and blood body composition. What happened? There was no difference. So the one study that was published that I could find that was done in a rigorous fashion showed no benefit. So that's where I am. But what about sweating? I'm in my sauna, sweat's coming off of me, maybe bad stuff is coming out of my body into my sweat. Well, there was a systematic review of 24 studies, and it turns out your sweat does contain certain metals, but it's in tiny amounts that won't accomplish the goal of removing large amounts from our body. And those studies had a lot of flaws. They didn't just take sweat that dripped off you. As you might anticipate, you would need to kind of scrape your skin and get the sweat and put it in a little container and then measure things. But when you do that, you're actually scraping your cells, skin cells, as well as just having the sweat. So there's a lot of contamination and it's not clear what's going on. But in any event, it was a very small amount and it doesn't look like you can sweat your way to having that work. So people say to me, well, but Dr. Bobby, I read about how people said it worked and how they felt so much better so quickly. And the rubber meets the road. What is truth here? Well, I am guessing that you have an inkling, if you've listened to my prior episodes, about where some of those testimonials are coming from. And I'm assuming that these are genuine patient experiences. Well, the first is the placebo effect. These are individuals who feel like it's going to help them and they feel better. Again, the scientific studies don't show objective improvement, but people feel better, and it may well be the placebo effect. Do take a listen to my last episode. The other thing that happens with these cleanses is you may lose water weight because, again, you're not eating very much for some number of days. And so when that happens, you might feel skinnier, feel lighter, and feel better. That's not because of the cleanse per se. It's just because you've lost a little bit of weight, water or otherwise, and you temporarily feel better. Of course, when you start eating again, that weight may be back in a couple of days, and then the symptoms return. And finally, doing something like this gives us agency. It feels like we're being proactive. We're doing something. And we always feel better, or we may feel better when we feel like we're taking charge of our health. So to sum up that section, I don't feel there's evidence that supports the claims. Now, is it safe? Because Dr. Bobby, what have I got to lose? Now, generally, these are safe, but it's not without risks. This industry with supplements and claims about cleanses, it's not regulated. So there's really not much out there about safety. We don't really know. Now, for a short term, a couple of days, it sure seems okay. Now, of course, you should talk to your doctor. But if you do something like this for a long period of time, 10 days, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you could get nutritional deficiencies because you're not eating your normal diet. You might get some protein deficiencies, which will hurt in terms of your muscles, and you might get vitamin deficiencies. And that's where some of the supplements are touted to kind of support that. If you're a diabetic and your blood sugar is up and down, and you basically stop eating normal foods and you're still on your diabetic medications, that can cause real problems for your blood sugar. So for a diabetic, it can be a problem. And if you have kidney disease and you're not managing your fluids and electrolytes as well as you could, again, this could be problematic. And anytime you use diuretics or laxatives for a prolonged period of time, yes, you can get into some electrolyte imbalances. Okay, so what do we do with this information? Well, I don't find credible evidence that total body detox works. And I want to save you, as always, time, money, and potential side effects. If you feel like you really have nothing else to try and you want to try a detox cleanse, okay, but maybe do it in the setting of an N of 1 trial where you're very careful about measuring your baseline with something objective. You try it, you then measure it again, you then go back to your prior diet, etc., and repeat that as often as you wish. But of course, always talk to your doctor before. And if you're interested in the N of 1 approach, go to episode 27 of mine, or on my website, you can find an article about N of 1 and how to approach it and how it might be helpful for you. So to wrap things up, we all want to live long and well. I don't, however, find evidence to support detox cleanses as the solution. By all means, let me know other topics you're interested in, and for now, goodbye. Thanks so much for listening to Live Long and Well with Dr. Bobby. If you like this episode, please provide a review on Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen. If you want to continue this journey or want to receive my newsletter on practical and scientific ways to improve your health and longevity, please visit me at drbobbylivellongandwell.com. That's doctor as in DR, Bobby, livelongandwell.com.